Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Hello, my name is Matt. I'm an SEO manager at Reflect Digital, and I'm a nerd. In particular, when I'm at work, I am a spreadsheet nerd. And when you're working with SEO, you end up working with big data sets. So this could be performance data, ranking data, survey responses, crawls of sites. You end up with these big piles of data, and 90% of it is stuff that you don't need. You want to look at a very small subsection of it. There are all sorts of tools and techniques that we can use to filter that down. One of the most useful is Regex. So some of you may have heard about it, used it, sort of been slightly terrified by it. Promise you it's not going to be as scary as this. We're going to take it nice and slow and look at just some of the basics. Because actually with Regex, the super basic level stuff is actually still some of the most powerful things that you can learn. So what is Regex? It stands for regular expressions, which I think is definitely false advertising. There's nothing regular about what we just saw. But the best way to think about it is as a search bar. So if we imagine our search bar and say we're looking on a website for clothes, we want a new pair of trousers. We can do this, put it in, and we'll get all of the trousers on the site. But if we want to look for a new pair of trousers and some shirts and a whole bunch of other stuff, we can no longer just put that straight into the search bar, because now we're only looking for products that are both trousers and shirts at the same time, and it doesn't really work. So instead, we'll go into, say, the clothing part of the website. We'll look for those filters where we can say, give me the sizes, the colors, the different types. I can tick what type of clothes I want. And what Regex does is give us a way to sort of squish all of those filters down into a little bit of text that we can put into a search bar. So it's really powerful. And importantly, it's standardized. So this is used across all sorts of different tools, websites, and certainly it's one of the most universal languages. I think it was invented in 1960 or something. So definitely worth having a look at. As an example, let's imagine we have a list of URLs from a website, and we want to find all the ones that say Brighton. We could use a bit of Regex that looks like this, and that will give us all of the things that mention Brighton. That kind of use case you can pretty much achieve with a normal search bar, right? You could just put in contains Brighton and you'll get all of that stuff. But what happens if we want to get more complicated? Say we want to look at all the words that mention Brighton in the news folder of the site. That's not something we can do with our search bar anymore, so we have to use Regex, something like that. So let's take a look at actually what's going on here. First up, we have the dot. So this is a bit like a blank tile in Scrabble. It can just mean anything, one of anything. So it could be a letter, could be a number, could be a symbol. It's just something. And the big part about Regex is that we can talk about the things that we know are going to be there and then sort of ignore all the rest. And that's what these symbols are for. We also have the asterisk, which will take a look at the last thing we just put in our Regex and say, match that any number of times. So that could be once. That could be a whole bunch of times, or it could be not at all. So 0 or more times is what that asterisk means. So when we combine those two things with dot and asterisk, we get a really powerful combination. We can say, give me any number of anything, which is basically the entirety of War and Peace could be dot asterisk. So that's quite powerful. We almost use it as I don't care about this bit, I just care about the rest. So when we look at that example that we had, dot asterisk slash news slash, dot asterisk, Brighton, dot asterisk, we're saying, get me things that say news at the beginning and Brighton at the end, and then anything for the rest of it. So when we put that into some sort of tool that filters down on that Regex, we're matching only the URLs that are in the news folder and include Brighton. So that's quite powerful. Important to note that Regex is case sensitive. So when we have something that is maybe Brighton with an uppercase B, we need to do something slightly different. One of the ways we can get around that is using different options. So if we put in brackets Brighton lowercase and uppercase, and in between them we put a little bar, what that means is match the Regex before the bar or after the bar. So it could be either of those. So if we put it in this example, it would be matching red or yellow. So that's really, really powerful as well. Another important concept, we're using dots and asterisks, but those can be in the text as well, right? So what if we want to match those dots? This is called escaping characters, and it's matching the text literally rather than using their regex meaning. Simpler than it sounds, it just means put a backslash in front of the thing that you want to ignore. So www.google.com becomes /dot/dot. Also worth noting, in quite a lot of regex, the / is considered something that you have to escape as well. So it's worth putting a backslash in front of those as well. It does look a bit like a W, but you'll get used to it. It's not necessary in everything, so a lot of Google products won't make you do this, but because it'll still work even if you do it, it's worth just getting into the habit, because then it'll work everywhere. So those three basic symbols, the dot, the asterisk, and the bar, already we can do quite a lot with those. And I'm going to show some examples later of just using those three, the kinds of day-to-day SEO workflows that we can get out of those. But let's take a look at a couple more first. We'll look at hat. So match the sequence at the start of the text. This is like a positional thing. So say we want to find things that have www. At the beginning. Don't forget we need to escape the dot. We would just put that hat at the beginning and sort of stick it to the front. And that would match everything with www. At the beginning of the text. We can also sort of use the sister of this, which is the $, and that just does the opposite. It means match this at the end of the text. So if we're looking at a domain, .com at the end would look something like that. And it matches .com at the end of the text that we give it. So both of those are super useful for when we're dealing with protocols and domains and a lot of the URL stuff that comes up in our big SEO datasets. Say we want to find unsecured URLs in a big database or crawl. We could use some regex like this. So we're saying at the beginning, find HTTP with the slashes that we've escaped, and then give me anything else, so I don't care. We could also do the opposite. So if we want to find the secure ones, we just put the S there. So those are really powerful, but those are the kinds of things that we can just put in a search bar. It's more useful when we come to stuff like this. So give me all the unsecured URLs in the news part of my site, or that mention Brighton. Or we could look at a specific domain, or we could make a specific domain that also mentions Brighton, and we can get super nitty-gritty and specific and granular with that stuff. Another great use case for this one, trailing slashes. So if we want to find all the stuff that has a trailing slash, or doesn't, if we want to filter against it, we just do this. So we say, give me some stuff at the beginning, and then a slash at the end. So that's what the $sign means there. So we now have these 5 symbols. These are our core regex symbols. They are pretty much 90% of the things that I use every single day, and you can do most of the kinds of things that you'll want to do in your work with just these 5. There are like 100 different other things that you can do, which are variations, improvements, make it a bit tidier. But actually, because there's so many different ways to do it, these 5 symbols can give you a really good starting set to be using. Let's remind ourselves what they are. So the dot is our blank Scrabble tile. It's matching any single character. The asterisk is saying match the last element any number of times. So that could be 0 or more. We have the bar, which matches the regex before or after. We have the hat, which matches the sequence at the start of the text. And then we have the $, which matches the sequence at the end of the text. When we combine the dot and the asterisk together, we can match any number of any character. Promise you this is the one you use absolutely the most. We can put things in brackets and use a bar to match X or Y. And we can keep going. We could put 100 different things as long as they're separated by a bar. And we just put them in brackets to make sure it's limited to that and not the rest of the regex that we've got before this. When we want to match something literally, we put a backslash in front of it. One more for luck. Question mark. So this is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier, is a different way to do the same sort of thing. So instead of our bar and brackets solution, we could use a question mark in our protocols to say match either HTTP or HTTPS, because what question mark is doing is saying either it exists or it doesn't. So instead of 0 or more times, we're saying 0 or 1 time. So if it was 2, it's not going to match. And all this is doing really is making our regex tidier. It's not actually affecting the solution that we're getting out the other end. And this is probably the majority of the rest of regex, in my opinion, is different ways to do things slightly better. So let's take a look at a practical example. How do we actually use this stuff in the real world? We might say, look for the performance of a subset of target pages on our site. we can use some regex like this, which is our 3 URLs separated by a bar, and we can also capture children of those pages using the .*. And we can go to somewhere like Search Console and say, give me a custom regex filter on the page, and put in our 3 URLs. So separated by the bar and with the .* for the children. You can get rid of that if you just want the specific ones. That'll look a little bit more like this in the real world. And that will then give you the data in Search Console for just the URLs that you've submitted in that regex. That's not something you can really do any other way at the moment in Search Console. Similar approach, but we can also use it for the performance of a group of keywords. So say we had a whole bunch of brand traffic or branded terms that we wanted to filter out of some data or look just specifically at. We might want to collect all of those branded terms together, separate them by bars, and include some .* here. What this is doing is creating a view of what branded terms exist, and then giving it the option of anything before and anything after, with this in the middle, is also branded. Using the same sort of approach, we can go to Search Console, and instead of doing our page filter, we can do a query filter, go and select our custom regex, and put the thing that we've just come up with in here. It's worth noting that quite often what I'll do if I've got like 100 things I want to filter for is I'll go into Google Sheets or Excel and just join it with a formula from a big list of the URLs that I want to find. Can be a little bit easier. And here, once we've got those, I realize that's saying queries containing, it should be the custom regex one. You can get all of that data for those branded terms. So in particular, when we're looking at sites that maybe are very reliant on branded data, this one can always come up quite consistently. But there is so much more that you can use regex for, and so much more you can do. You can get very, very complicated, like we saw earlier, and you can also find things that are super, super niche solutions to problems that you probably won't find anywhere else. It's worth Googling, because there are a lot of people who have figured out how to do those things, so it can be really easy. But one of the big benefits of learning those sort of 5 basic core symbols is that you can use it everywhere. So whether it's Search Console, Screaming Frog, Analytics, Sheets, Excel, BigQuery, Power BI, like a billion other different things, this is a language that will work everywhere, with subtle variations, I will say that now. But generally, it'll match exactly the same stuff wherever you put it. So it's sort of a fundamental skill set that you can apply everywhere you want to. Something else that's worth mentioning now is using a regex testing tool. So a testing tool is something that you can take your example regex or something that you maybe don't know is 100% working and test it against a subset of your data. So this one that I use all the time, regex101.com, gives you a whole bunch of different areas. So in the top left, you put the regex and you can type it out and change it and it'll update in real time. And you can also give it some test strings. So here is the kind of example stuff that we're going to see. Does it match or does it not match? Here I would recommend at least including one that you know should match so that you can actually test that correctly. Really usefully, it also has an area in the bottom right which will give you a reference point. So if you wanted to remember what a dot means or an asterisk or any of the billions of other different things that you can do, that will literally have a list of everything and explain what they will do. So that could be really useful as well, especially if you're looking for a specific solution that maybe you don't already know about. And arguably one of the most beneficial things about using something like this is you can get an explanation. So when we put in our regex and test it against those strings, what this will do is say, okay, you're matching this stuff because this part of your regex is saying this, and this part is saying that. And you can sort of use that as a bit of a debugging tool to try and find out exactly what you want to use it for. So if you want to talk more nerdy data stuff, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, or I'm on Twitter @MattGreenwoodGS. If you want to find the slides from today, go back through it and try and brush up. You can also find all of them at the QR code provided. I've been Matt, you've been brilliant, and have a great rest of your Brighton SEO.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.
Demand sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.